case of the prosecutor of the tribunal against Dusan Tadic, also known as Dule.
On April 26, 1995, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia held its first trial session.
The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, composed of Judge Jacob.
The following year, the first session of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda commenced. These trials, along with the more than 200 trials that followed, were recorded in their entirety and are now preserved in the archives of the International Criminal Tribunals. More than 16,600 combined trial days have been held since the establishment of the tribunals. Every hour of these trials has been captured and preserved in the archives. In addition to the recording of a session verbatim, every session is also simultaneously recorded in English, French and Kinyarwanda for ICTR, or Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian for ICTY. Redacted versions of recordings are also created to protect confidential information. For example, a protected witness's name, voice, or image. The courtroom recordings have captured more than 10,000 combined victim and witness testimonies, including testimony from expert witnesses, defendants, eyewitnesses to events, and victims of alleged crimes. More than 3,500 audiovisual exhibits, tendered by both defense and prosecution, have been admitted in the court sessions of the tribunals. These recordings, taken by eyewitnesses, commissioned by military or political groups, created while conducting interviews or investigations, or included in the raw footage or full news reports of media organizations, can provide compelling evidence of the events that took place in Rwanda and the former Yugoslavia in the 1990s. Some audiovisual exhibits help to establish the atmosphere in which the events occurred. Others capture the events as they unfold. Oftentimes, the audiovisual material shows the aftermath of these events and the extent of damage inflicted. Third-party material, such as news footage and documentaries, provide the courts with audiovisual evidence that may not be captured elsewhere.
As quickly as they could, they dropped them on the graves of Vedrana and the baby boy the sniper also murdered. It was time to go. As the family was leaving, the gunners found their range.
Journalists and documentary filmmakers who created these recordings may also be called to provide eyewitness testimony.
Do you have any comment you'd like to offer on this last clip?
Yes, there's some context I'd like to give. I'm a very experienced reporter of conflict, and I've seen a lot of bad things, but when I see that, I'm still outraged by it, and it was a very cruel day for those poor people. It was a very, very cruel and heartless day.
While audiovisual exhibits and courtroom recordings constitute a large portion of the archives, non-judicial records are also preserved and made accessible. This material includes recordings from the communications and outreach functions, as well as from other offices across the tribunals. Examples of this material include press conferences, documentaries, judges swearing-in ceremonies, and other commemorative events. Nearly 140,000 physical recordings and roughly 350,000 digital files in numerous formats are preserved in the archives of the tribunals. The number of recordings increases each day as teams of audiovisual archivists and archives assistants work to create quality preservation and access copies to ensure the long-term preservation and accessibility of these recordings. The mechanism for international criminal tribunals, which is responsible for the management of the ICTR and ICTY archives, has a mandate to facilitate the widest possible access to these records while ensuring the continued protection of confidential information. The archives are dedicated to ensuring that this mandate is fulfilled. To view and download public judicial records online, visit the Archives of the International Criminal Tribunals page on the mechanism's website. For access to all other records, please contact the archives for further information.